Delighted to say joining me today, since Claire has sodded off on holiday, not to Afghanistan, I may point out, Matthew Laza, former Labour Party advisor. A very good morning to you.
And good morning to you, Julia.
Nice to get you back in the studio.
Always a pleasure.
Where do we even Where do we start in Afghanistan? I'm just going to try and run through a little bit. As far as I can make out. Now, this emerged at midday yesterday. We were on air and I was handed this piece of paper out. Incredibly convoluted story. Could not make head nor tail of it. We put it out as breaking news a couple of times, but it was really, while you were on air, trying to work out what the hell's going on. As far as we can gather, because the story seems to have changed quite, in 2021, remember, we had the evacuation of Kabul. My goodness, we covered it every single day. We also, from then on, were covering, the number of Afghan, translators and others who were desperately trying to get out of the country. And many were not taken out of the country. There's a man I've still been in touch with. We called him Sammy on the show, still trying to get out of the country with his wife and daughter, despite having worked for the British, US, and I think German as well, authorities to help them as a translator. In 2022, there was a data leak. Some 19,000 people's information was leaked. That was in February 2022. No one knew about it. It was an email that was sent out that shouldn't have gone out to with a load of people's names on it, to about 100 people, but those 19,000 names went on it. The MOD didn't find out. This is from February 2022 until August 2023. So the MOD found out. Why? Because someone put some of those names onto Facebook and went, can leak the rest of them. Now, we understand initially there was a thing called D-Notice. Now, this is basically a national security. You've worked in government, you know how these things work. There are sometimes, for instance, things like, Prince Harry is serving in Afghanistan for 6 months. No one's allowed to print it. Everyone agrees to keep it quiet and the like. For national security, for individual safety. I think we'd understand there might be some justification for that while you notify these people. An awful lot of people weren't notified their names were on this list. And then a superinjunction was imposed by the courts here. And a superinjunction, we remember this from the footballers, the top businessmen. Basically, someone makes an accusation against you and you're defending it, questionably a lot of the time. Not only are people not allowed to report the details of that case, they're not even allowed to report that superinjunction exists. Yeah. So nothing, complete news blackout. Daily Mail, The Times were onto this and were basically trying to get this, and they were told, no, superinjunction. And it is not until 23 months later, yesterday, that superinjunction was lifted at midday by the current Defence Secretary, John Healey. Matthew, what is the biggest, most egregious issue here?
Well, I mean, clearly the most egregious mistake was the most expensive email in history, which is going to cost the British taxpayer, we're not quite sure how many billions, but I think the superinjunction and for such a prolonged period, I think you hit the cover-up. I think you hit the nail on the head. Initial concerns, D-Notice, which prevents media organisations reporting for a limited period, is one thing. But a superinjunction which was going to go on and on and on is another. Look, I'm really glad that John Healey and the government have lifted it. I mean, it's taken them a year to do it. They say it's because they were getting things in order, and they did this review, which actually came out yesterday.
But there are still people to get out, so I'm not quite sure how that's justified.
Yeah, well, also, I think one thing that the Labour government has done is it has slimmed down the number of people who are on the list who it thinks should be a priority for coming. So now, not everybody on the list is going to be able to come.
And they've closed it. And this is all part, because the Operation Rubific, I don't know, that was the covert airlifting of thousands of Afghans to the UK. So we've got the data leak. That's a mistake, okay, in the first place. That's the guy who wrote that email that accidentally BCC'd, other people. Still working at the MOD, we're told.
We're not in Afghanistan, though. That's okay.
Oh, well, that's okay. He's just putting other people's lives at risk in another country around the world. Well done, brilliant. Well done, everybody. The cover-up, initial cover-up, going on so long, why it went on so long. One of the reasons I find extraordinary is one of the arguments that government lawyers made in court was that they couldn't lift the injunction because they warned of a risk of public disorder. Genuinely, the view of the government, whether it's Tory or Labour, of the British people is so contemptuous. Oh, we'll find something out that you've done stupidly and all wrong, and then we're going to go and riot. I mean, it's just outrageous. People in this country were very, very welcoming of the idea that people who had helped our troops in Afghanistan were trying to, on the side of good, that they should, who were then at risk when the Taliban took over, should they be allowed to come to this country. People were very supportive of that, actually, very, very supportive on this. But so the key thing here is, so there's been no scrutiny in Parliament or by the public or by the media of this airlift. no scrutiny of the cost. It was projected in court to cost £7 billion. Government now says it's under £1 billion, but now we've got a lawsuit representing thousands of these people. It's looking like that's going to be £1 billion in terms of legal redress. We've had no oversight of who these thousands of Afghans are who've been secretly brought here. We know at least one was not someone who had helped the government, but one who had said, I got this list, I will release this list in full to the Taliban if you don't allow me to come to Britain with my family. So we've got that guy here, great. None of these people were vetted. These were people who had applied. The British taxpayer is going to foot the bill, huge cost. We don't know how much it is. And now we're told, well, you know, they've closed this project now, that they've shut down the scheme. There are 70,000 people left in Afghanistan, but a total of almost 24,000 will come here. 18,500 have arrived or are due to arrive. They're living in MOD homes. A lot of them, again, they're not translators, a lot of these people. That's why they're not on the Arab scheme. So they don't speak English. They're bringing their families. 4, 5, 6 kids. You know, when they say they're close families, does that include parents? Does that include brothers and sisters? I don't know. We're talking about a huge number of people who've come to this country because of a erroneous email, and we're paying for it cost-wise, and it's costing an absolute fortune to the taxpayer, and we weren't told about it. That is an outrage.
Absolutely, and I think that, you know, you're right, Julia, to say that this concern that it was going to cause public disorder. Actually, I thought it might have reduced public disorder, because if people knew that people who got angry about migrant hotels in their area knew that some of those migrants, at least, were people who had assisted British forces on active duty, then they might have been less likely to riot rather than more likely.
I think the British people are better than this.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, the lack of scrutiny, and I think what's going to happen is in Parliament. Obviously, yesterday the Defence Secretary was grilled for 2 hours, but I think there's going to be such a sort of lingering anger and resentment about this that there's going to be a lot of questions.
And again, this was on the Tory watch. They own this. I mean, you know, all credit to John Healey for you know, fessing up to what the MOD has done. I think this would have happened if Labour had been in charge as well, to be honest with you. I think this is just that's just the way that governments are these days. But I mean, Ben Wallace, when he was Defence Secretary, he's done interviews, he's done an article for a newspaper today. He's defending the decision, but he's sort of saying, well, I didn't apply for superinjunction. I don't know why we got that. That was a lawyer decision. You've got to wonder, like, how many people knew about this, who knew about it, and when, and who agreed to it. People haven't been allowed legally. They've not been allowed to talk about it. They would be in contempt of court. They would literally be in prison themselves. We're going to be talking to Michael Gove very soon. He's the Lord Gove now, former Conservative minister, about, you know, what he knew, whether he thinks it's the right thing or not to do. But I think for a lot of people, the concern about immigration ties into this. We know now, we finally do have information on criminality among different nationalities who come to this country. Afghans are not just at the top of the list; they are way at the top of the list in terms of their convictions for serious crimes in this country, and minor crimes. Well, not any crime is minor to the person who's the victim. So there'll be a lot of concern that we haven't brought in people who are good, you know, good people who've helped our forces, who want to make a new life for themselves and have had to escape the Taliban because they would have been, and their families would have been killed because they'd helped British forces. We don't know who a lot of these people are. They've not been vetted in the same way as people who helped our forces. And I'm sorry, we have people have an understandable and justified concern about people coming from particular countries where there is a high rate of criminality in terms of the people who've been here. It's a reasonable concern to make.
Yeah, look, I mean, absolutely. I mean, we need to know whether it's people from Afghanistan or anywhere else, who's coming into the country, who they are, if they've got convictions, and, you know, the filter should be there. In terms of the blame game, we're seeing every ex-Tory Defence Secretary and junior ministers all rushing into print this morning to put their side of the story. Everybody at the moment seems to be saying, oh, it's Grant Shapps' fault because he's the one who hasn't yet appeared on the airwaves, but he was the last Defence Secretary. But, of course, surely the rest of the Cabinet and the Prime Minister knew.
Prime Minister must have known.
That's the big question.
This is high up it went, and again, and the fact that this guy who did this email is still employed. Look, everyone's allowed to make a mistake at work. You know, we've all done it, but wow. But is it a system problem? We're told that the system has changed. Blah, 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 all of that. You know, that's what we're always told.